Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासुदेव गौर भक्तवृंद की जय, गंगा देवी की जय, यमुना देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी महारानी की जय। ओ glories to the simple devotees, Hare Krishna. O glories to the simple devotees, O glories to the simple devotees, O glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. O glories to Sri Good morning everyone, Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming for Srimad Bhagavatam class. So today we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 4, Text 13. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Asmalokat uparate.
Asmalokat uparate.
Vaijnanam ashrayam.
Vaijnanam ashrayam.
Arhati udava ivada.
Arhati udava ivada.
Samprati atma vittavam varaha.
Samprati atma vittavam varaha.
Asmalokat uparate.
Asmalokat uparate.
Vaijnanam ashrayam.
Vaijnanam ashrayam.
Arhati udava ivada.
Arhati udava ivada.
Samprati atma vittavam varaha.
Samprati atma vittavam varaha.
Asmalokat uparate.
Asmalokat uparate.
Vaijnanam ashrayam.
Vaijnanam ashrayam.
Akyudava evada.
Arhati udava ivada.
Sampratyatma vratambara.
Samprati atma vittavam varaha.
Asmalokat uparate.
Asmalokat uparate.
Vaijnanam ashrayam.
Vaijnanam ashrayam. Arhati udava ivada. Samprati atma vittavam varaha.
Asmalokat uparate.
Asmalokat uparate.
Vaijnanam mad ashrayam.
Vaijnanam ashrayam.
Arhate udva ivada.
Arhati udava ivada.
Srapate atmavatam varaha.
Samprati atma vittavam varaha.
Ladies,
Asmalokat uparate. Asmalokat uparate. Vaijnanam ashrayam. Vaijnanam ashrayam. Arhati udava ivada. Arhati udava ivada. Samprati atma vittavam varaha. Samprati atma vittavam varaha.
Asmalokat uparate.
Asmalokat uparate. Vaijnanam ashrayam. Arhati udava ivada. Samprati atma vittavam varaha.
Word for word, asmat,
Asmat.
from this
From this
universe.
universe.
Lokat,
Lokat.
earth.
Earth.
Uparate,
Uparate.
having disappeared.
Having disappeared.
Mai,
Mai.
of myself.
Of myself.
Nanam,
Jnanam.
knowledge.
Knowledge.
Mat ashrayam,
Ashrayam.
concerning myself.
Concerning myself.
Arhati,
Arhati.
deserves.
Deserves.
Udavaha,
Udavaha.
udava.
Udava.
Eva,
Eva.
certainly.
Certainly.
Ada,
Ada.
directly.
Directly.
Samprati,
Samprati.
at the present moment.
Present moment.
Atmavatam,
Atmavatam.
of the devotees.
Of the devotees.
Varaha,
Varaha.
foremost.
Foremost.
Translation. Now I shall leave the vision of this mundane world, and I see that Uddhava, the foremost of my devotees, is the only one who can be directly entrusted with knowledge about me. Please repeat. Now I shall leave
Now I shall leave
the vision of this mundane world.
the vision of this mundane world,
And I see that Uddhava,
and I see that Buddha,
the foremost of my devotees,
foremost of my devotees,
is the only one
is the only one
who can be directly entrusted
who can be directly entrusted
with knowledge about me.
with knowledge about me.
Nana Mad Ashrayam is significant in this verse. Transcendental knowledge has three departmental divisions, namely knowledge of impersonal Brahman, knowledge of the all-pervading Supersoul, and knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Out of the three transcendental knowledge of the personality of Godhead, has special significance and is known as Bhagavat Tattva Vijnana, specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. This specific knowledge is realized by pure devotional service and no other means. Bhagavad Gita 1855 confirms this. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyashtasya tattvataha. Only persons engaged in devotional service can factually know the transcendental position of the Lord. Uddhava was considered to be the best amongst all the devotees of that time, and therefore he was directly instructed by the Lord's grace, so that people might take advantage of Uddhava's knowledge after the disappearance of the Lord from the vision of the world. This is one of the reasons why Uddhava was advised to go to Badarik Ashram, where the Lord is personally represented by the Nara-Narayan deity. One who is transcendentally advanced can gain direct inspiration from the temple deity, and thus a devotee of the Lord always takes shelter of a recognized temple of the Lord in order to make tangible advancement in transcendental knowledge by the grace of the Lord. So I seek the blessings of all the devotees. Even though I'm not qualified to speak, I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak for my own self-purification. And I pray that whatever I speak, whatever little knowledge I've gained from reading and hearing from the devotees will be helpful for all of us and will penetrate deeply into our hearts. So in this chapter is entitled Vidura Approaches Maitreya. So who can remember the three departmental divisions of transcendental knowledge, or the three ways the Lord is, three different stages where the Lord is understood? I'll give a clue. One is first the impersonal Brahman realization, and then who remembers from the purport that Prabhupada mentioned the other two? Yes, Paramatma realization, which is the all-pervading Supersoul, and then the highest knowledge is knowledge of Bhagavan, yes, the personality of Godhead. So the impersonal Brahman realization, that's Nanis, they want to gain knowledge of the Lord, but they want to merge with the impersonal Brahman. And the yogis, they sit down at a place and they meditate on this Supersoul within the heart, the Lord within the heart. But the bhaktas, the devotees, they go directly and worship the Lord through his bona fide representatives. So Prabhupada gives the example of the sun and the sun's rays. So all these three stages of realizing the Lord is one, but then we understand from the scriptures that understanding Bhagavan is the highest stage of knowledge. So the analogy of the sun and the sun's rays is given in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:59-30. It says there the Lord Chaitanya gives the example that the sun and its sunshine that we all have experienced are one in reality, for the sun is the celestial body that shines. On the other hand, one can certainly distinguish between the sun glow and the sun rays. So, in the Srimad Bhagavatam also 4.31.16, it talks about this concept of achintya, abheda, veda tattva, which is simultaneous oneness and difference. So one can see that the sunshine is light, the sun glow when you look at it, the sun's rays, it gives light, and then you look at the sun glow, it gives light, and then you have the sun god, a personality who is in charge of the sun planet. So they all one in one sense, but they're different as well. So approaching the Lord, the Gnani is approaching the Lord and wanting to merge in his impersonal form, and just oneness is not the ultimate goal of one's life, because there's more. So if one wants to, for example, remain in an education system, if one wants to remain at the kindergarten stage, that's fine as well, but then we understand that there's higher levels of education as well. So Bhagavan realization is the highest level of realization of the Supreme Lord. So in the same purport of 10.59.30, Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that thus God's simultaneous oneness with and difference from his creation. So it was talking about in this purport that everything is connected with the Lord. There's nothing separate from the Lord, every single thing. So it depends on one's consciousness and one's vision. I was just watching yesterday this podcast by this famous devotee, Namraj Prabhu, and he was interviewing Aruda Mataji. She's also a famous devotee who homeschooled her two sons, who are now very expert and prominent in their fields. One is a PhD professor, the top of my head. But so she homeschooled them just on Srila Prabhupada's books, reading every day Srila Prabhupada's books and discussing about it. So they're also learning grammar and all these things, and obviously depending on the nature of the child, she has also incorporated different aspects and added in other subjects. So she's done her research and she's packaged it in such a way that she's kept Krishna in the center. And she was talking about, Namraj Prabhu asked a question about her sons, because they entered college when they were 12, because homeschooled children usually they way ahead of the mainstream schools. So Namraj Prabhu was asking Aruda Mataji that did they feel that, this I have to now learn mundane stuff, and then at home, when they were homeschooled, they were learning, all about Krishna and his devotees. And Srimad Bhagavatam, she said not at all. They never felt this is separate, because they always saw whatever education, whatever they used was for the higher purpose, to be utilized in the Lord's service. So previously in the old days, sometimes artificially or without having full knowledge, or just naively giving up one's education or one's job, it was done in the past, and then later on devotees realized that no, everything can be utilized in the service of the Lord. So giving up one's education in the so-called outside world, the contemporary world, is not outside the realm of devotional service. It just depends on one's consciousness. If one sees that I'm doing this so that ultimately maybe it may not be directly engaged or utilized in devotional service, but it can be somehow dovetailed. For example, someone can utilize their hard-earned income for donating to the temple, or like the example in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it gives an example of a very prominent devotee. His name is Shivananda Sen. So he paid for devotees, he paid all the toll and all the prasadam and all the accommodation and everything for the devotees to go on parikrama, on holy pilgrimage, to the various places with Lord Chaitanya. So he utilized his wealth in the service of the Lord. So it's not that when one becomes a devotee, one has to give up one's wealth, or one has to artificially renounce one's education, or dress very simply. If one is very beautiful and inclined to dress up, then that doesn't mean that, oh, one is not a devotee. It's not based on externalities. So one may be very beautiful, and they can wear nice clothes, opulent clothes, but knowing that this is in service for the Lord, and it's also somehow also related to when people come, new people come, and they see, oh, these devotees are not just shabbily or poorly dressed, everything can be utilized in the service of the Lord according to one's psychophysical nature. So it says, thus God's simultaneous oneness with and difference from His creation. So there is a real sense in which all things are one, for everything is part of the same supreme absolute reality. So it's just a matter of understanding and dovetailing everything in the Lord's service. So it's the consciousness. So the example that comes to mind is the police officer. So externally he wears the uniform. Of course, not that we get caught up in the externalities, just like in Nectar of Instruction, there's the text 2, which talks about that one can follow externals, can get too caught up in the externals. So there's niyam agraha. So agraha means too much attached to following the externals of devotional service, the rules and regulations. And agraha means too much neglect of, so being casual, being a casual devotee. Oh, that's okay. I'm here with the devotees. I'm eating prasadam, and that's fine. Just being very casual, taking everything very lightly. And then on the other hand, the other extreme is just following everything externally, but not touching the heart, not connecting the mind, not understanding why am I bowing down, why am I saying the pranam mantras of Srila Prabhupada, my spiritual master, so that I'm respecting them, so they can help me connect with Krishna, with the previous teachers. So understanding why we're doing the externals, just like a police officer, when he goes to his to the police station, he wears his uniform, and he's connecting that uniform with his service. But when he goes home, he changes out of his uniform. If he's really applied this, the training that he's got from being a police officer, or when he goes out with his family or anything, it's not that he's going to say, oh, I'm not going to pay for it because I'm a police officer. He goes to the restaurant or somewhere, or if he's going to steal some money. No, because he's internalized his education or his training that I'm a police officer, even when he's not in his uniform. So especially at New Govardhan, it's very diverse community, and also because we are a farm community, a working community, so we see devotees after the morning program, they may be in their saris or dhotis or something, and then afterwards you see devotees are wearing their shorts or they are wearing their pants, gopiskas, whatever it is, and shirts or whatever they're doing, and they're going out and going about doing their service. So especially here, I've observed, not that I've kind of been so much in other temples, but I've seen here that the devotees, the environment is such that I find that personally that it's really following Srila Prabhupada's instructions that really imbibing internally the mood, that it's not so much the externals, but it's doing the needful and being practical in the Lord's service. At the same time, it's not that when they come into the temple, they're going to come and wanting to lead Guru Puja in shorts, or wanting to do the arti in shorts. So there's a balance, and there's a deeper understanding why am I doing what I'm doing, and also being practical, not getting too caught up in the rules and regulations, being practical at the same time, not being casual and say, oh, it's okay, we are farm community, I can do so. Following and also, just like for example, if when the Queen was present, then people would go and visit the Queen. They would dress up properly and go and visit the Queen. So there was a dress code, not that one be in their beach clothes, shorts and whatever, and go to see the Queen. So there's a balance required also. So it's not that one is also casual in following the devotional practice. There is a reason why we have the externals, the uniform, just like the police officers, so that others can also respect their position, and also it reminds us ourselves with that uniform, we wearing tilak, a sari or dhoti, then it kind of connects us more to what reminds us that what we are here for serving the Lord. But even Prabhupada, in one of his purports, he was saying that devotees were going out on book distribution, and then one devotee asked Prabhupada, can we wear shirt and pants and go out on books? And he explained, oh, because people are more receptive. He said, yes, whatever you do, do the needful in the Lord's service. So there's a fine balance required and fine tuning it according to time, place and circumstances, and also getting guidance from the scriptures, getting guidance from the other devotees and from one spiritual master. So in Nectar of Instruction, the purport, it says that practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or musically. So it's not that we do that. So a fine balance is required. And that's why we need to take guidance from the Guru and the sadhus and read the scriptures ourselves. So and then there's the Paramatma realization, so the divisions of transcendental knowledge is Brahman realization, Super Soul, Paramatma, and Bhagavan realization. So another example, before that, I just wanted to mention also Vaisheshika Prabhu, who is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He mentions that everything should be utilized as prasadam from the Lord and can be used in the Lord's service. So nothing is outside the realm of devotional service, except of course, one can't work in a butcher, a meat shop and say that I can use that money in the Lord's service. When one comes to Krishna consciousness, and if one is in that position, one has to try to find some other source of income. And also no gambling, intoxication and illicit sex. So if one is somehow in that field, then one has to try to get out of it. But everything else aside from that can be utilized and dovetailed in the Lord's service. And in Sri Ishopanishad, Prabhupada mentions this principle of Ishavasya, which is understanding that everything belongs to the Lord and He has given everyone a certain quota. And every single person has their own individual quota, and one has to use that in the Lord's service. So some may be very talented in making garlands, someone is talented doing gardening, someone is inclined towards knowledge and they can share that knowledge. So whatever one's psychophysical nature can be used in the service of the Lord. And the reason why I also brought up this principle of everyone is given their quota is that sometimes devotees see someone doing things externally and they think, I want to also do exactly what that devotee is doing. But not understanding that there's a background involved, there's so much that person's done. And we just seeing what is there in front of our eyes. Like one devotee, she was saying that she was in Melbourne and one person walked out into the temple and saw a devotee on the altar. And she was from an Indian background, from a Brahmana family, and she says, oh, I want to get up on the altar and do the service. And this devotee was trying to explain that in our Krishna consciousness movement, there's a certain, practice that we do to get to that phase, that stage where we can worship the Lord on the altar, but that person didn't want to accept it because it's not a cheap thing to follow devotional service and come and do these things. And even when one comes to that point of worshipping the Lord on the altar, one is understanding and constantly, moment by moment, practicing reading Prabhupada's books and understanding that I'm doing this service according to my nature. So, following the 4 regulative principles, who can name the 4 regulative principles? Yeah. So these are our austerities that we follow in our Krishna consciousness movement. So there's this principle of in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 1731. It talks about this principle of anukara, which means imitating, and anusara, trying to follow in the footsteps. So one may be very inspired by someone in their devotional practice, but one has to be very careful that one is not trying to imitate that person, but one tries to follow in the footsteps. So Vaisheshika Prabhu, often I listen to the Fan the Spark on Facebook. He talks about how one should start from where they're at and not become disheartened that, oh, look, these people, this person is more at this stage already and I'm just beginning or something like that. One just starts where they're at with what they have. So it's a gradual process. Devotional service and bhakti yoga is a gradual process, and one shouldn't artificially jump. Otherwise, like a while ago, Srimati Mataji was giving the class and she was talking about building a foundation. So if one doesn't build a strong foundation and wants to start building, they are building high up a skyscraper, but that foundation is not strong. If an earthquake or a light rumble comes, even if it's a small degree on the Richter scale, it will bring the building crashing down. So we may think, okay, externally we may get caught up in doing these things, but if we are not strong in our practice, and that's why devotional service is so much also an internal process, to internalize, always being introspective. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Okay, the anarthas, the bad qualities may come out because in Kali Yuga, in this age, the demon and the devotee is in the heart of the person. We have our bad qualities and good qualities. It's like Bhakti Tirtha Swami says, which dog is going to win? The bad dog or the good dog is the one that we feed the most. So if we we cultivate that the good qualities, then we can make progress on the devotional path, and then also building a strong foundation. So sometimes, the example, I remember when Harisauri Prabhu came here in Govardhan a while ago, and he was giving the example that one day Prabhupada came and then with the Amrish Prabhu, who is in charge of the Ford companies, and he was going with Prabhupada, and then he went in the car with Prabhupada, and there was a devotee standing next to Harisauri Prabhu, and he was mumbling, oh, why does Amrish Prabhu get to go in the car with the Prabhupada? And then Harisauri Prabhu was saying, he didn't say it, but he realized that this devotee has previous pious credits. We don't know what he's done in his previous life or this life to get to that. So externally we may see things, but we don't know the background. So that's why we, instead of seeing externals, we just see where we are, compare ourselves to who we were the previous day and try to improve. And at the same time, look at others and be inspired by them and improve on that basis. Otherwise, if we try to see others and try to externally also be the same as that person, it will be a failure, because everyone is unique and everyone is different. It says there, no snowflake is the same, and there's so many snowflakes. So try to be also honest with ourselves and be introspective and see, okay, even though I may feel something like not a good feeling. I may feel jealous or I may feel envious. Step back and say, oh, why am I feeling this way? Oh, because I have a need also to be appreciated. So then let me also do something that is pleasing to Krishna, pleasing to the devotees according to my capacity, and then make a progressive march towards devotional service. So then that is being honest, that okay, accepting my shortcomings, how I'm feeling, and acknowledging it and addressing it and not trying to sweep it under the carpet, and then one can make progress, because when Krishna sees the sincerity, then he helps, and then gradually the dirty things in our heart become purified and cleansed. So in this purport, Prabhupada talks about that the knowledge of the personality of Godhead Bhagavan is the highest. It says there, Bhagavat Tattva Vijnana, specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. And he mentions there that only through pure devotional, then the specific knowledge is realized only. So that word realized, if we analyze it, it's also realized it's coming from a revelation. So revelation comes when one sees, for example, Prabhupada gave the example, if a man is walking his dog, and a very powerful man, and you go approach the dog and you say, oh, what a cute dog, and you start petting it and patting and saying, oh, what a cute dog. Then the master is going to take notice the person who is paying attention to his dog. So it's not that we approach Krishna directly, but we approach his bona fide representatives, or the one who is dear to that master. Then that the master will notice us, and it comes from revelation. So just like we are here, and then someone comes and walks off the street, and they say, oh, I want to know about you. Oh, I want to become, chummy with you. I want to be your friend. And then you think, oh, wait a minute, who are you? But then if you come here and you humbly serve, and you serve the friends, you serve the Lord, you serve someone who is very dear to that person, then that person will start taking notice, and slowly a friendship will develop and things like that. So it's a gradual process. It's not that one artificially jumps. So it says there also in the purport that when first-class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desire, knowledge obtained by monistic philosophy, and fruit of action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. So sometimes we see that the devotee will come and say, oh, book distribution is the highest, oh, Kali Yuga, Harinam Sankirtan is the only way, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kalau Nasti, Eva Nasti, Eva Nasti, Katirunita. So, okay, let me go out on book distribution, or let me go out on Harinam, this is the highest. But even though it's the highest, just the other day, Ikshwaku Prabhu was talking on 3.4.26, where he talked about Maryada Vyatikrama and not impertinently overstepping the authorities. So one has to take guidance from the authorities, the local authorities, and the spiritual master. If one comes to a temple and says, oh, I'm living at the temple and I'm going to just go on book distribution, but not do the practical service, and at the same time and not taking guidance from the spiritual master. So externally it may be the highest, and you may be externally doing so many books or going on Harinam, but through my small observation I see that it's not sustainable. One may be doing something for a short time, but they can't sustain it because the blessings has not come from the authorities, the sanction has not come from the authorities. If someone else is doing a service and they've done the groundwork, they've done the background, and then someone new comes and say, I want to do the same thing that person does, but jump ahead and not do what the other person has done, then good luck to that person. So, there's a reason why sometimes people think, oh, because in the world today, following an authority, and it also happens within our Krishna consciousness movement, is people in position who misuse their position and then we lose trust in the authorities. But that doesn't mean we throw out the baby out with the bath water, the dirty bath water. You don't throw out the principle that's there. Prabhupada has given this principle of following the authorities for a reason. It's not that we jump ahead. If someone senior said, that's why I remember once was listening to this class Devi Swami was giving in Melbourne, and this devotee wanted to say the verse, and we may think it's something very small, there were other senior devotees there, and then this young devotee, he started saying the mantra, so very nicely, but not in a heavy way, but he was saying that there's a reason why the senior most devotee first starts saying the verse, and then on the main side, and then the senior one present says on the main side. And there's an etiquette. One wants to lead kirtan, then they ask permission. If there's someone senior, they say, oh, would you like to lead? Or some senior visiting devotee, would you like to lead kirtan? And they say, no, it's okay, you lead. Or saying, oh, I would really like to lead. Or someone senior there, or is it okay if I lead? So there's an etiquette involved in there. It's not that one thinks, oh, I can do, or I surpass. That it doesn't. It's not like that. The senior devotee themselves don't think, oh, I am anybody's senior. I'm just serving the Lord. But Prabhupada has given this principle of this hierarchy. It's not that, okay, there's a rigid hierarchy, but there's a reason why. Is because we are getting the blessings from those devotees. Just like Prabhupada. Once he was somewhere, I'm not sure where, maybe in Canada, and maybe Bhanu Swami was there, and they were doing a small Vyasa Puja, and then one devotee was initiated maybe just a few months ahead of someone else, and they were going to do the Vyasa Puja homages and the offering. And then Prabhupada said, no, this devotee has to say it first. So we might think, oh, it's a very minor thing, but Prabhupada was just teaching the etiquette. Not that devotee who came 3 months ahead is thinking, oh, I am greater, I am senior. So there's a principle, just like in traditional cultures, like South America or anywhere we see, even Indian culture, the grandparents are there, and then there's a culture of respect that they are given first reception, and they are the ones who speak first at a function and things like that. So the reason behind that is not that, oh, I'm in control and I'm the boss of you, but it's that we are gaining the blessings of the devotees. Just like my spiritual master, Devi Krishna Goswami, he says, whenever he visits the temple, especially in Auckland, when he would come, then the devotees would do a Guru Puja for him and feet bathing, and then he would also sing Guru Puja when we are singing Guru Puja. It's because he's understanding that I am accepting this honor on behalf of my spiritual master, and my spiritual master is accepting that honor on behalf of his spiritual master and passing it on to Krishna. So even within the different levels, there's that understanding that I am a servant I'm an eternal servant. So not misusing that position. So moment by moment, every time, every day, every single person of us is also an authority in some way or another, and is also a servant in one way or another. So always understanding the etiquette on both sides, passing it on the respect, and also getting permission and getting the blessings to follow. So so that principle of Maryada Vyatikrama is very important. So there's no shortcuts. So Krishna knows our heart and our desire. So when we are honest, then Krishna helps us and He purifies our heart, and we can be marching on the progressive path of bhakti. So one should be very careful also to build a strong foundation and understand the principles of devotional service and not be caught up in the external details, but at the same time following the externalities, the details, according to time, place and circumstances, but not getting too caught up in it. And In this purport, it says, Krishna is telling Uddhava, now I shall leave the vision of this mundane world, and I see that Uddhava, the foremost of my devotees, is the only one who can directly be entrusted with knowledge about me. So we see Prabhupada was also entrusted with the knowledge because he was following the disciplic succession, the Guru Parampara, getting the permission, following nicely, and then being entrusted with that knowledge. So every single one of us, just like Prabhupada, he said that everyone become a guru. So it's not that externally everyone becomes a sannyasi, becomes a guru, but become a guru in our own way by reading the scriptures, following the instructions of the spiritual master, associating with the devotees. Then one can become a guru and be entrusted with that knowledge. And when Krishna left, then this Krishna Dhamma Bhagavate, so when he left, then he left this light of knowledge, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he left his representatives to follow. Just before I finish up, I just wanted to also mention that it says that one should take shelter of the temple deity, the recognized temple of the Lord. So once Prabhupada was some of his disciples, they went to one temple, and that temple, those devotees at that temple were telling Prabhupada's disciples that yes, you can become a Vaishnava at our temple when you take birth in a Brahmana family. And then they told Prabhupada that, and they said, oh, we saw the deity there. And Prabhupada said the deity was not there. And then they said, oh no, Prabhupada, we saw the deity there. And Prabhupada very sternly said, the deity is not there. So what is the meaning of that? We come to a bona fide, to a temple and take shelter of the deity. So it also depends on the consciousness of the person, the pujaris, the devotees. So Prabhupada said that because he could understand that the principle of accepting shelter of the bona fide, the deity in the temple is that, those devotees, so-called devotees at that temple didn't understand that the principle of when one follows the instructions of the spiritual master, one gets initiated in the Vaishnava Sampradaya, one is higher than a Brahmana. So Krishna, even though he's there in the deity, if one is not practicing, one is not chanting their rounds, one is not practicing properly, the deity will not be present. So even though Krishna is there, it also depends on one's consciousness. Just like in the Krishna book, when Krishna and Lord Balaram, they went to the wrestling arena of Kamsa, all the different people, they saw Krishna differently. Mother Yashoda, Nanda Baba, they saw Krishna, oh, here's my darling son. The Kamsa saw, this is my enemy. And so it depends on one's vision and one's consciousness how they see Krishna, and to that degree Krishna will reciprocate and be present to that devotee. So it's not that externally, just like Kadamakananda Swami in his Zoom classes, he was saying that even taking sannyas, being a sannyasi, in his humility, he was saying it doesn't cut it. So he's also giving the example for us that externally we may have position, whatever we may do, but moment by moment, we always need to practice and see that our consciousness is always dovetailed in Krishna's service. And be honest and be introspective in our devotional service, and take help and guidance from the devotees whenever we are going through any difficulty. So I'll end there if anyone has any questions, comments, or corrections.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We'll just wait for them.
Hare Krishna Mataji. How to better understand pure devotional service?
I just remembered by Shikha Prabhu says the sky is unlimited, the birds can fly as high as they're able to. So whatever small understanding I have is that by observing the dear devotees of Krishna, by observing Prabhupada's mood and observing Prabhupada's disciples, the ones who are sincerely following. And we can tell that because it says there in Krishna book, Giriraj Govardhan, he says that he understood how to please Krishna by pleasing his devotees, the cowherd boys and providing all the lakes and the rivers and the waterfalls. So by seeing, reading Prabhupada's books, reading Lilamrita, reading like the the Transcendental Diaries, and seeing how they are serving the Lord, then one can see how can I attend pure devotional service, because they have it. And by understanding their mood, not just externally seeing how they are practicing, but also hearing from them, serving them, then they are pleased, and then they will impart that knowledge and will transfer the blessings they have received, coming down from Krishna, and the heart will open up and more realization will come.
Thank you.
So, India, thank you for coming to class. Srimad